Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhairagale, Ni Hao, Chunashume, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifahal, Haleshuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho Gracias, Fabio, Balli Kareaya, Hosh Galden and Ayo Sayo, Huyamora, Chivato, Chihal, Yud Kalimera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World on a fine sunny Friday morning over here in Islamabad. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very lucky to have been joined by my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajar Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, for introducing me. Certainly, it's a very fine sunny morning and it's very warm, right, Shahzad? So you can literally feel the heat and the sweat, and certainly coming days are going to be even more hotter, because Met Department has predicted a rise in the temperature. But having said so, Shahzad, so it is often asked, especially about the Monday, so what is your Monday motivation? Because Monday is that time of the week which I think a lot of us dread, because this is the start of the week and then we have to come to work and whatnot. But Friday is the time which is the happiest. Number one, because it has certain spirituality into it, right? And secondly, it is the end of the week and we're going to have 2 holidays coming up, right? So what is your Friday motivation apart from the holidays?
I think my Friday motivation apart from the holidays is to kind of, reflect upon my own self. And, I do
Why Friday for that?
It's because of the fact that you get ample time. You're not busy, you're not doing anything, you're not going to work. You kind of think about yourself, the areas you can improve. And it obviously does work for me. But the only thing which actually kind of spoils it for me is, one of my sister or somebody calling, Aaj raat ko khane pe aana hai. And I'm like, yeah. Eventually you got a weekend to yourself and now you have to go somewhere and be there as well, which I hope and I love it. It's beautiful to be out there as well. But, certainly before Friday, you're planning how your Friday needs to be, and eventually if on a Thursday night you're going to get a call from somebody that you are invited to a dinner, you're like, okay, I need to change my plan. And that's exactly what I did. So today I will be recording a podcast, and then after that, I will be going to my sister's place, which I'm looking forward to now, alhamdulillah, because, sisters are beautiful souls for brothers, and they have protected me, they have nurtured me, and to be very honest, my eldest sister is actually 16 or 17 years older than me as well. So imagine that my parents, whenever they tell me to respect my elder sisters, they tell me that, it wasn't your mother who actually looked after you so well, it was your sister. So I think everybody out there, please make sure that you, give respect to your sisters, because sisters, ladies and gentlemen, is a, the bond you guys enjoy together is something which is, you will be cherishing, for the longest period of your life as well. And please make sure that you do so. And sisters rely on their bhaiya as well, Sisters have this habit, or I think it's innate, that every sister will rely on their brother until and unless the brother fails to kind of do whatever the sister expects them to do for them.
But I think, Shahzad, so my younger sister is 9 or 10 years younger than me.
You have a difference with your sister, I think. Every time you talk about your sister, you're like, okay, she's very different from me.
She is different, and I think every person is unique in its own right, and siblings are different. I think we're 3 siblings and all of us are very different inclinations.
And the brothers like totally
very different characteristics, very different and very unique qualities, right? So whenever I'm angry with her, and then she has this very innate ability of, talking back at every instance and arguing that, right? Yes. So
I think you have it too.
No,
Just today. I think Seher is a witness to that. Seher is a witness. So I said that,
He's just tweaking my words. He's just tweaking my words.
Yesterday I said that, so whenever, today.
Why do you want me to comply with you?
No, I'm not saying that you have to comply with me. But today, when we came over here, so Miss Seher, our producer, said that, okay, you talk a lot. And then she said, you talk a lot. I was like, yesterday the program was fascinating. It was amazing. And my producer asked me, why was it? And I said that, that Hajar agreed to me. She was like, no, I didn't agree to you. And I was like, it's okay.
Okay, so, but I do say to her that, I've literally raised you and I have cleaned all of your, whatever, the call of the nature and whatnot. But then again, obviously, I'm angry. But obviously, I think the sibling bond is
what makes you angry? What makes you angry?
Okay, so there are a lot of things, especially when I'm reading book or I'm reading something and she comes up and she asks me this and that thing. And when it's very very intense reading going on, so I'm really annoyed that did not come to me. And then she has this habit of recounting whatever happened in our university details, and I'm not interested in listening, whatever happened. I mean, smallest details, very trivial for me. So I don't talk a lot, especially in my house, or generally in the settings, and she talks a lot, and this is what annoys me, because she's the one talking and I'm listening, but I really don't want it. So I think we should move on to our top stories.
And especially, I can understand it, because imagine that, there are a few books when you're reading them, you actually have to reread like all of those lines.
Yes, because they're so intense, right? And they're very gripping, and you have to digest the entirety of the text, and when someone interrupts you. So, and also we have a very damaged attention span because of these short video reels. So I think you have to invest a lot in terms of the attention whenever you are reading. So moving on to our top stories, which is about the cooperation between Prime Minister of Pakistan and Iran. So after the inauguration of Munpashin border market, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif met elders at Pak-Iran border crossing. He said Pakistan and Iran have agreed to reach free trade agreement, start import of electricity from Iran, and bilateral cooperation in solar energy projects. Shahbaz Sharif said he had positive and constructive talks with the Iranian leader. Both countries have to move forward in trade, investment, information, technology, agriculture, and other sectors. He also invited the Iranian president to visit Pakistan, which the latter accepted. And I'm really glad that there's a free trade agreement between Pakistan and Iran, because if you are living in the areas of Pakistan, which are especially bordering Iran, for example, areas like Pishin, Zob, Quetta, and the Balochistan belt, so you will find that there are a lot of things which are pouring from the Iranian border to Pakistani border. And when we were posted in Quetta, so my mom was really fond of the Iranian products, and she used to buy a lot of carpets. And I think we still have those very blue and maroon decoration pieces in our houses.
And you love blue color anyways, because your recent updates, I've seen them as well, so you've kind of decorated your new house with blue. I think there was, most of the time there was blue. I think that was something which I was able to pick up, but I had to say something else. And that is that just yesterday I was watching this documentary of a Pakistani gentleman who was traveling from UK to Pakistan.
Okay.
And, in between the documentary, he mentioned that we never knew how hospitable Iranians were. So imagine that if you are coming by a car, if you're traveling by a car and you have to cross Iran, the government gives you a full tank for free, and that's how they show their hospitality. So one free tank of fuel you will be getting from the Iranian government.
But when we were living in the Quetta, so it was said about the Iranian oil that it was not very good because it was crude and was not good for the engine of the car. So it was advised and cautioned not to put the Iranian oil into the cars because it is damaging to your engine. I really don't know.
But if they are using it for themselves, I think we can use it too.
Because there's a lot of sanctions on their country, and obviously they need avenues to export it around. So that is why they might be giving it for free, because they have surplus oil, right?
Just keep that in mind. So if you're traveling from Iran, the government will give you one free fuel tank. So please make sure that you take good use of it as well. But moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the World Meteorological Department organization has warned that global temperatures are likely to surge to record levels in the next 5 years. In a statement, Geneva-based UN agency WMO chief Petteri Talas said there is 66% likelihood that the annual average near-surface global temperature between 2023 and 2027 will be more than 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels for at least 1 year. He said there is 98% likelihood that at least one of the next 5 years will be the warmest on record. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that the climate-related risks for global warming are higher than 1.5 degrees centigrade but lower than 2 degrees centigrade. The new report was released ahead of the World Meteorological Congress, which will discuss how to strengthen weather and climate services to support climate change adaptation. And it's so confusing for me. So imagine that people over here within the meteorological department have been saying that, it's going to get so hot for Pakistan. And we've been listening to this for the last 2 years now, approximately.
Yes,
but I think that the best of the planners is, ladies and gentlemen, Allah Almighty only. And, so it totally, we cannot be sure about it. That's why they say 66%, 98%. That's how humans behave. Kya itne feesad chance hai. But ladies and gentlemen, I think if this is what we're sharing with you, we certainly really need to kind of take precautions and make sure that we move towards cleaner and greener energy so that we do not make our planet more hot.
That's very true. Moving on to another very interesting news, especially in the morning, which is actors Elizabeth Olsen and Lee Jong-ji were among the stars attending the Italian luxury label Gucci's cruise collection show at 14th Century Seoul Palace, blending Korean heritage and modern fashion. In a mix of street and sportswear, models dressed in surfing suits or carrying skateboard-shaped bags strutted between ancient pillars in the corridors surrounding the main hall of the palace. The show, featuring the soundtrack of Oscar-winning South Korean movie Parasite, during its finale was the first of its kind to take place within the palace courtyard. And recently we have seen, Shahzad, this phenomena, especially with the representation of the third world countries or from the non-Hollywood sources or the non-Western sources, that there's a very huge importance and focus on the non-Hollywood, especially the entertainment products. So you will see that there's a lot of Turkish dramas which are getting famous. Same goes for the South Korean dramas, because they're getting so much famous with the K-pop band. They are making strides across
right?
the, yes, BTS is making strides across the globe.
And their films are getting very famous,
their
songs
films are,
and whatnot.
yes. And now fashion show, you will see that they are hosting that fashion show. And talking about Gucci, so I am reminded of those bags that you are holding in your hand. And certainly, how many time has passed since you landed from UK to here? And did that transition period ended or not?
No, obviously it's going to end soon, and you.
I think you need to admit that you ate my chocolates.
No. That's not the case.
Okay, let's drag it for another month.
No, but what I wanted to ask you was, okay, so with all of these brands all over the world and people going crazy about them, are you a brand person, and would you recommend people to go wear brands?
No, not at all. So I am not very brand conscious person. So I like clothes which I find that they are very representative and they are suitable for me, right?
Wonderful.
So can it be brand or it can be from the local markets. And I usually go for the local markets because they are really cheap, and we have to, every day change our clothes because of the show. So let's go for the options which are more, cheap and more
vibrant, and
yes,
there's
exactly.
more life to it as
Yes.
well, and that you do not have to protect them every time you come back. You have to put it back into their box as well. So ladies and gentlemen, I think this is it. But now today, the kind of topic we have
Yes.
picked up on is a very interesting one, and very few people all over Pakistan might be very well aware of it. There are a few people who do think that, okay, yes, there is such a system out there which is going to protect our rights, but they do not have the courage to go and take action. Not just that, I think in addition to that, I would love to say that it's because of the fact that people have not trusted them from a very longer time. So that's the same reason why they kind of they certainly do not want to take action against all of those people
Right.
who were involved into all of those wrongdoings. So number one, obviously we will be talking about consumer law.
Yes.
And number two, Haja, we will be talking about
women empowerment and the laws which are related to the women harassment, right? So Pakistan has implemented a lot of laws, especially when it comes to the workplace protection laws that are very essential for the women empowerment and encouraging women, creating a safe space for them in terms of the legality, right? So we are very glad that we have been joined by two wonderful guests who are going to have a really enlightenment views on all of these
So
topics.
first up, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by Advocate Supreme Court, Mr. Malik Kamar Afzal Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Good morning. I'm feeling very happy, and I
Enlightened.
really enjoyed the introduction.
Thank you
All
so
that
much.
was Wonderful.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
sir,
so
for joining us. Wonderful to have you alongside him, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about women harassment laws. Ladies and gentlemen, we're lucky that we've been joined by Advocate High Court. She happens to be Miss Tania Bazai. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum salam. I'm really feeling very good, and as always.
Thank you so much for joining us. So let's get the conversation started with the Advocate Supreme Court over here. So, sir, first of all, I would want you to kind of state all of those consumer laws, if that's possible, humanly, for our audiences out there in Pakistan, and then we'll talk about different situations people have been through and how they could have taken some benefit out of the wrongdoing of that particular person who was serving us right there. Because I think consumer laws only apply on services and products, right?
Thank you very much. It's really very important. And I tell you one thing, that there is a maxim that the civilized society cannot develop without the development of a civil law.
That's true.
And the civil law is based on the principle of the law of torts. Wherever there is a grievance, wherever there is a pain, there is always a relief. And that relief can be in terms of, number one, compensation. The compensation is the real thing that can really give you a relief to most of the pains.
True.
So as far as the consumer law is concerned, it's called Consumer Protection Act. It was introduced in 2004, then it was modified in 2006, and then in 2010. Now it's a provincial subject. the provincial governments and the provincial parliaments can make these laws. So, these laws are now enforceable as an independent judicial system. This is very interesting. The people do not know that there is a complete infrastructure and mechanism for the enforcement of the consumer protection laws.
What do we call it, sir? What do we call that infrastructure?
That is called the consumer courts.
Consumer
Right.
courts. Okay.
So, they are not civil courts, they are not criminal courts, they are independent consumer courts. It is followed as the same pattern as the international system is.
Okay.
Now, there is an independent consumer judge. He is only looking after the consumer issues. There is no other issue before him.
Right.
Now, the Consumer Act actually protects products and the services both. So, this is very meaningful and effective, and it has teeth. I tell you honestly, because the list which you see every day before the consumer court.
And sir, do we need lawyers, especially when we go to the consumer courts? Because according to my research, there are consumer protection council members to assist you. You don't even need lawyers.
You don't need lawyers. That is your own
Discretion,
choice.
yes.
If you want to have a lawyer, you can, but you can straight away go to the judge and file a complaint, and then he will of course take on.
Wonderful.
One.
Yes.
But the thing is that you see, law of torts, it actually revolves around three basic things. There is an act, there is a cause, and there is a damage.
Right.
Once you prove to the court that there is a damage, then the court is bound to give you relief of compensation.
Okay.
Now, that compensation is mostly in the monetary form. In Pakistan, interestingly, there have been laws since 1948. Like there is a law, Fatal Accidents Act. The people die in accidents
Yes. Yes.
due to the negligence.
Unfortunately.
So, that law is there. Unfortunately, you will be surprised to know that law was being enforced in Sindh, but in Punjab it was not being enforced because it's fatal accidents in 1922.
Okay.
So, in Punjab it came on into later on. Now, this consumer court, what I have seen is that day and day the list of the consumer court is increasing.
Right.
First there were used to be 10 cases, but now there are more than 100 cases every day before all of the consumer courts. Because the consumer courts, they are independent setup.
Yes.
Each district has independent consumer court equivalent to the sessions court. Now, the appeal directly goes to the high court, and then it's a money decree. Money decree is a very kind of a punitive damage, because
Right.
whenever there is a money decree issued by the consumer court, the other party has to deposit that money. So, to my understanding, I think this is the best thing that has happened recent years in Pakistan, and Pakistan is becoming so aware of the consumer laws that whenever you go to any shop, and you just have to tell them, because the shopkeepers or the service providers, they actually know what the consumer law is. It's the customer who doesn't know that.
True.
But sir, yes, of course you talked about the consumer consciousness, which is very growing in Pakistan. But then again, I brought few products from a very famous brand here, and they were really not good. And I think every person that I met there complained about their products. Either they were expired, or they had some really bad content mix up, which was really damaging to when you use it. But then again, when I think about filing a complaint against them, I'm just told about how tedious the process is, how laborious is this process. And obviously, we know that there are lots that needs to be done to revamp our justice or judicial system or dispensation of the justice, right? So what do you have to say about people like me, who are really, wary of going there because of very tedious and laboriousness which is involved in that process?
Or if it is.
Yeah.
Or is
You
it a
see,
myth?
there is no doubt that everything that you have to, if you have to do something, you have to make an effort, number one.
That's true.
But if you have this one satisfaction,
Yes.
that whatever effort you are making, that will be compensated.
Yes.
Like if you are even paying costs for the traveling, or paying costs for the lawyers, or paying costs, everything will be compensated. And then on top of that, it will be not only compensation, it will be more than that.
Yes.
So, this is very interesting, because people don't have actually got the taste of the compensatory money yet.
Exactly, and we'll come back to this now. So we have laid the foundation now. It is for the people to understand it for their better means as well, and it is for you people to kind of make sure that you share it with other people as well. But now let me move on to Ms. Tania over here. So Ms. Tania, first of all, just like we've laid this foundation for consumer law, let's talk about harassment laws against women and men too at the same time. How do you think that women and men can go and kind of get justice for themselves if they are being harassed? May it be at their workplace, may it be domestic violence, may it be any given situation
space, yeah.
within any circumstance, please.
First, we have to understand what harassment is.
Ji.
Harassment doesn't mean it's a physical harassment or someone touches you. It can be visual, it can be oral, it can be psychological, it can be in any way. What harassment is, when you feel uncomfortable, when you see someone's unwanted behavior, which you cannot tolerate it, that comes in the definition of harassment. So,
इस तरह तो रोज ही पता नहीं सारे harassment ही कर रहे हैं फिर मेरा ख्याल है.
Good morning message is also harassment.
Unfortunately,
So this show would be also
because imagine, you know, so even if I'm looking at you, but I'm thinking something else, and you're thinking over there that okay, you
but
know, I
if
might
I'm
be staring at you.
comfortable, but
that-
if I'm comfortable, it's not harassment.
That's harassment.
No, that's not harassment.
Okay,
If
if
I'm
you're-
comfortable with your looks,
Yeah.
with your gesture,
But if you're
the way, your
uncomfortable-
body language, then it's not harassment.
But if you're uncomfortable,
Then it's harassment.
Then it's harassment.
Yes.
यानी आपको देखा harassment अंदर.
Yes, that's the definition. That's the global definition of harassment. If you
Okay,
see.
please continue.
So in Pakistan, the first time when this was enacted, it was in 2010 that the bill was passed, that was act was passed to a legislative instrument.
Okay.
And in that bill, it was clearly mentioned that how a woman, when she faces harassment at workplace, where she has to go, where she has to file the complaint, how much is the fine, how much is the imprisonment. So if you go to the website of FOSPA, the woman mostly they don't want to disclose their this situation because of some of her dignity and self-respect. So they try to hide, or they mostly do not complain and mostly go unreported.
Okay.
So this one platform which FOSPA provided for these women were that they can do that complaint online, and they will be considered anonymous, and their dignity will not be their identity will not be disclosed
wonderful. So-
on any forum.
Exactly. Let me just share it in Urdu
limited
for our
for
audience.
only the female gender, or I mean
Or
any
men
gender
as well.
can?
I think both of them.
Both of them, yes.
Both of
Okay,
them.
that's
It's a
wonderful.
harassment
यानी
for
अगर-
both, both of them.
Let me just explain it to our audiences in Urdu as well. तो जितनी भी खवातीन हमें देख रही हैं, माएँ बहनें बेटियां जितनी भी देख रही हैं,
और
कि अगर
मर्द।
आपको कोई ऐसा भी लगता है कि किसी के देखने से आपको अनकंफर्टेबल फील करती हैं, आप उसकी शिकायत कर सकती हैं, और शिकायत भी इस तरह से हो सकती है कि आपका नाम भी नहीं आएगा. ये मर्दों पे भी इसी तरह लागू होता है और औरतों पे भी. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल सर, इफ़ यू स्टेयर एट मी एंड आई फील अनकंफर्टेबल, you know, so I can go into the court and be like, सर ने मुझे देखा, मुझे सही नहीं लगा.
Of course, this is called stalking.
सर अब वो बंदा देखता ही अच्छा लग रहे हो यार, प्यारे लग रहे हो, कपड़े अच्छे पहने हुए.
नहीं, वो बात सही है, लेकिन जो स्टॉकिंग का लॉ है ना, उसके पीछे रेपिटिशन का एक्ट होना चाहिए.
ओके.
मतलब आपने मुझे कह दिया, मैंने हाजरा से कह दिया कि यू लुकिंग गुड, दैट्स गुड इनफ, लेकिन मैं अब रोज कहना शुरू कर दूं तो फिर गुड इनफ.
For example, if you are my neighbor and every morning I come out of my window and I'm like, sir,
good morning.
sir.
Yes, that
Okay.
would be causing
Even
inconvenience to the
cyber
other person.
stalking is also comes in harassment.
Yes.
But I think you need to produce the evidence, and I think this is where the grey area lies, because it's really difficult to produce the evidence sometimes
it's
when
good.
you are harassed. So no, it's not good. I mean, in terms when there's a genuine case out there and you are unable to produce that, and of course you are, especially in the legal limbo. So let's talk about the fraudulent practices that are happening in the cyber affairs, or the online sellers which are frauding a lot of people out there. We see that there are a lot of online companies coming up, or websites coming up. They are selling a product. The picture is very fancy, but when you order it and then they come back to your home, it's really, really off, and it's not up to the standard, or the product is not same at all, right? Yes. And someday, and when you complain it back, they block you out, or I mean the website changes, something like that. So what sort of protection is there when it comes to the online fraudulent practices?
And this happened to me.
illegal?
So I ordered
I
a
think it
piano.
happened to everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I ordered a piano for my daughter, and the piano looked this big, and it
Yes.
was 6,000 or 7,000 rupees. But when the piano came, it was this big. And I was like,
It's a miniature.
yeah. So what do we do? Because I don't think that they're registered lawfully as well. A lot of those companies.
See, Shahzad, actually, it's a evolutionary process, the development. We have traveled a lot. Now we are almost there. We have the technology. Slowly and gradually that will be used. In courts also, the technology has been introduced and used now. Now you can see now in all the courts, wherever you see in the higher courts, you will see that there are video links. Lawyers are doing cases from Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad. So we don't go travel now.
True.
So this is kind of an advancement. So it will take time, but the consumer courts are very conscious of it. There are a lot of complaints, and they are trying that by the introduction of these cyber laws, they can use this. Now online fraud is actually international.
Yes. course.
It's not that small.
Yeah, people
comes
call
in.
you and be like, "Yaar,
Yes.
ye do
So,
this."
and there is an international jurisdiction involved. If you're ordering from some other country, so international law has been
But
also
what about the
developed.
national markets?
So that's what I'm saying. The consumer courts are the only way out right now.
Right.
You have to go to the consumer court, you have to file a complaint. Of course, initially it is difficult, but as I told you, that once the consumer realizes that if he has a good case and he will be successful, all his costs will be covered, including the cost of the pain. Even that will be recovered.
Exactly. But sir, in addition to that, because we're talking about, cyber fraudulent activities, and whenever we talk about internet, obviously it's World Wide Web.
Yes.
So do you think that there is a national law which is going to apply on it, or it's going to be an international body which will govern or tell us that, okay, these laws apply over here or all across the globe?
Shall I tell you, just 2-3 days back, my daughter was transferring money from one account to another account
Didn't
in a
reach.
sterling, right?
Yeah.
That amount took 7 days.
Okay.
She just mailed to the bank that this is a complaint. After just 24 hours, she got £150 in her account, that please settle the complaint and this is the compensation.
Wow.
So, international law is so strong on this. They respond so quickly, it's beyond our imagination.
True.
So, all we have to do is to make an effort.
Exactly.
People don't make effort.
Write that application, send it to them.
Yes.
That's it.
That is the most difficult thing. People just don't do it. You see, this is our culture. We just tried mitti pop. And that mitti pana has
That's very
actually done the whole country into mitti.
Assume
And
mitti ji
this
aa
is,
gayi.
I think, cultural norm. You're very right in pointing it out, because I was meeting a German lady. She has passed away now, but she has married a Pakistani man, and she was living in Islamabad, and she said that there's just general culture in Pakistan that people don't complain.
True, they don't.
Even if there's a very genuine reason, they don't bother and complain or give their redressal that this is wrong with us and this is how we need to do that. And this is why I think as a nation we need to evolve a lot and make sure that if there is something wrong going on, we need to complain about it,
True,
right?
and it's just like you walking up to your mother or father, when you were young and your younger sibling or your elder sibling has slapped you, you're like, "Ammi, look at them, what are they doing with me?" But very quickly, I would want to move on to you, Ms. Tani, over here, because the word complaint actually kind of made me think of it as well. Now, imagine that this law will make it so difficult for us to kind of go to somebody and ask them if they're willing to marry us. Do you think that that's going to come under harassment as well if they do not like your face? They're like, "Yaar, aapne kaisi baat kar di? What are you talking about?" How do you think people are going to approach some people who they really want to get married to? How do you think that people will have new relationships?
There is a decent way to, if you want to marry someone.
Not every time you're going to go tell your mother, okay, please जाएं और इनसे बात करके ऐसे तो नहीं होगा. So I think that the law needs to protect whether the intent was right or wrong. Do you think that we have this facility from the law which actually allows us to kind of do what we wanted to with the rightful intent?
What kind of law it is that will show your intentions? That
I
your
mean, that's what
intentions
I'm
are
asking you.
pure
That do you think
and
that
clean?
it is that the lawyers will be able to prove it, that the intent of my client wasn't the way the other client is putting it in front of you, my lord, something like that?
That comes like in evidence and all that how you were intended towards that person. But here the intention, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because if you go with clean intentions, if you have no such in your mind, but if that woman whom you are proposing to, how she interprets your intention,
Yeah.
has in our law there is no interpretation
Okay.
as such. When you come into court, when it comes to your any dialogue or anything, the courts tells you that we don't have such law of interpretation. So, we cannot interpret someone's saying, someone's thinking, someone's intention.
But somebody telling the honorable judge, for example, that he was staring at me, or
I
for
think
all of those things that we have
you
explained.
need an ample amount of the evidence
Yeah,
to
that's what I'm
proceed
asking.
ahead,
Yes,
right?
you have
And
to.
you need to reproduce that evidence in the court of law, and that's how you will proceed. So now
So do
coming
we
back
need
to you.
witnesses for that? Just very quickly.
Is then a proper procedure.
And so then people will come and they'll be like, "Yeah,
Yes.
you जिस तरह से देख रहा था
There
ठीक
will be
नहीं था."
statement after statement that will be cross
then,
examination.
I'll have two people and they'll be
on
like,
that statement,
"Sir,
on
बिल्कुल
that
ठीक था."
statement you will be cross examined and the evidence will be recorded.
But I think it's difficult, no, sir?
Sir,
What's your take on this?
Let me add on something.
Sure.
There is more than the physical or man-woman harassment. There are financial harassments.
True.
There are economic
Economical.
harassments. There are so many kinds of
Bullying
harassments.
and whatnot,
Yes, bullying, and there's a psychological harassment. If you want somebody not to say progress You can cause circumstances that they may not progress.
They eventually come to you,
yes, making the working conditions uncomfortable. This is also a kind of a harassment. If you are not providing, say, air conditioning to a person who is entitled to air conditioning, and then this is a harassment. So there are more than this man's harassment.
Yes, and now let's come to the CSR laws in Pakistan, right? So a lot of corporate companies, and there's particular law in Pakistan that if you are a corporate giant, you need to have CSR activities in order to provide support to the society, because from this society, you're extracting a lot of resources and materials, and then you have to give it back, right? But in a lot of cases which I've heard from my corporate friends is that it's just a bogeyman where the lot of giants or the millionaires, they just try to funnel off the money back into their own accounts, and at the front of that they're just doing it for the marketing technique, right, for the CSR activities. So what sort of laws are there in order to protect the CSR activities, and do you believe in this assertion that it is just a cover or marketing ploy?
I don't agree,
Okay.
because what I have seen from the corporate side, especially the international companies, they do
No, I'm
return.
talking about Pakistan.
That's what I'm saying.
even
In
McDonald's
most of
did
the,
this
even the
plantation drive.
McDonald's and all these companies,
yeah.
they do
Wonderful.
come back to the society. There is no doubt about that.
Okay.
As far as our companies are concerned, even the good companies, but they are different. Like Ramzan Bazaar, like Iftar dinners serving free. So we have a different gesture of giving away the charity.
Okay.
Like in Pakistan, I think there is the lowest recorded charity in Pakistan, but there is the highest unrecorded charity in Pakistan.
Okay.
So this is what our culture is. This is the problem. What I want to add, Shahzad, through this program is there is one thing that we need to see, that one aspect that has really gone internationally recognized, that is the medical malpractice. In Pakistan, the medical malpractice has gone to such a height because it has remained unchecked. There are now laws, there is a medical tribunal, there is a consumer court, there is a health center, health laws. All these laws are actually there to protect the consumer against the wrongful medical services. I request to the public that wherever you find any negligence, or wherever you find any negligence regarding the services or the professional skills of the doctor, they should go to the relevant court.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
thank you
thank
so
you
much,
so
sir,
much.
for being with us. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
madam,
much.
for being with us.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to be in conversation.
It's our
with you.
pleasure. It was really wonderful.
Thank you so much,
to
sir.
give an
Thank you.
opportunity like this. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much once again for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to come down to whether you are ready or willing to take action against all of those malpractices which have been taking place, and that too they have been harming you. So please make sure it's your decision to be made. I think that the government and the law actually provides you a lot of feasibility to go and chase them and hunt them down, all of those malpractices which have been taking place, all of those fraudulent activities which have been taking place. There are people and experts like sir over here and madam over here. You can reach out to them as well. But for now, we're heading out towards a short break. Once you guys will come back, we're talking about unemployment. इस पे भी कोई case होना चाहिए यार. Good morning.
Welcome back, and we were having a really interesting conversation, and so now we are going to evolve or move towards a topic, I think, which is very close to us as a society, and it's not just a Pakistan's problem, it is the global problem, right? And I think with the globalization, the problem of the drugs has also become a globalized phenomenon and globalized problem, and there's a lot of money involved in it, and obviously you will see that how drug addiction is afflicting the youth of our country, right? Especially in the universities, you will find this phenomena. And also sometimes I feel that the peer pressure also leads a lot of kids to start doing the drugs just because it seems very trendy or cool, and how it can ruin their lives, right? And then they have to rehab, and sometimes then they have to again and again go to the rehab. So in order to talk about the menace of the drug addiction, especially among the young people, and how to avoid that, how to create the alternatives with the more productive and to channelize their energy in a way that is more productive to them, we have a very very special guest in our studio, and we are very glad that we have been joined by Muhammad Anwar Kazim. He happens to be youth activist and also the motivational speaker. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our
Walaikum
show.
assalam, and thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you so
Right.
much for joining us. Yeah, it's wonderful to have somebody as young as us and speak about our issues. You know, that's something which I would love to appreciate over here. And thank you so much for taking our time. But let's get started. Drugs obviously is a menace, and there's no other point other than us labeling us that it's a menace. Number one. Number two, I
course.
will always advocate that, you know, the parents really need to kind of look after their children.
Yes.
They're very vulnerable, and in today's time, you know, where you have everything, you just need to give a call to somebody and it will be dropped to your doorstep. How do you think that parents kind of look after their kids, and how can they make sure that the kind of nurturing they do for their children will actually protect their children from drugs and all these menaces which exist within the society? Wow.
Well, Shahzad, as Hajra was mentioning, now this is not just a Pakistan's issue, but of course, being a patriot, our priority is Pakistan,
society.
Pakistan first. It's a global challenge being faced worldwide these days. And I think there are two things that are moving parallel to each other. One is unemployment, and the other is the drug abuse. We've seen that in certain cases, drug abuse basically leads to unemployment. And at the same time, we do see that drug abuse leading to unemployment and unemployment leading to drug abuse at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
Because these days, our Pakistan is blessed with so many, I think, countless blessings by the Allah Almighty,
Alhamdulillah.
that we've been, you know, a country having a population comprising majority of the youth, right? And this is something that is the desire of the developed countries, because they are the hands to feed, not the hands to eat. But unfortunately, due to the unemployment, and again, unemployment is also a global challenge being faced right now.
That's true.
And the facts indicate that worldwide there is a drastic decline in the business opportunities in different sectors, while at the same time, yes.
Yeah, but unemployment, my brother, how I would want to refer to it is that, you know, not a lot of people can actually think this way, and I would pray that, you know, that they think this way. Unemployment is your inability to create an opportunity for yourself. I think that's how I would want to refer unemployment in 2023. It's not more about, you know, you going outside, taking your CV and asking somebody for help and a job. You know, that's not how it should be. I think we really need to kind of redesign. You know, we really need to learn and tell people that it's totally on you to create an opportunity. And a lot of youngsters, imagine a 12-year-old is actually making thousands of dollars every month just by sitting on a laptop. I think everybody can do that. But when we come down to, you know, unemployment, you know, we just think about that strata of the society who, God forbid, unfortunately, were not able to get good education. You know, they certainly need somebody to support them, and that causes a lot of pressure. You know, and Haja very rightfully mentioned that there's a peer pressure. So imagine that there's one successful brother in your family, and then there's one brother who unfortunately cannot do anything. And it's most of the time due to peer pressure that people get into drugs.
True. I agree with you. Like you said, that there are opportunities around us. It's, I think we lack in finding out or
Recognizing.
discovering those opportunities. We don't avail them. We've got so many options these days, and one of the options is having a cell phone in hand and just giving a call and ordering anything, free home delivery. And one of those things is also drugs. While I was trying to relate it with unemployment was because peer pressure is of course there. There are people who can't face the society. They're trying to run away from their responsibilities temporarily.
Yes.
And I think they're like those pigeons who just close their eyes and they assume by themselves that they've saved their lives.
Yeah.
But one cannot run from his responsibilities.
But let's talk more about the unemployment factor, because obviously that you talked about very rightly. So it's a global phenomena. There's a global inflation going, and everywhere there is this just problem of the unemployment, or especially the younger kids who are graduating from their universities. They might find it difficult to find the jobs, and every job, like Shahzad always talks about, mentions a job requirement, mentions that you need to have that much experience. And obviously, how can you get experience, you know, when you have just graduated, right? So what do you describe for them the formula of getting into the job, even if they do not have job? Because I always say go for the charity work, because that always counts into your CV, and it gives a really, really good impression that that's a wonderful person.
I think those people who are facing such problems should refer Shahzad, as he's counseling them very well, that you don't have to go into the degrees all the time. Having degrees in your hand and not being equipped with the skill that is required for your job, you can be a freelancer. You just have a phone, you have a laptop. It's you who has to decide that what its use is going to be. Right,
But
so you can
Pakistani market is so much designed in a way that they always require degree. Yeah, I mean globally now the Google and all of these unicorns, they do not demand degrees. But that's a global phenomenon. That's a Western phenomenon. In Pakistan, you will find very bureaucratic structures where they require, you need to have degree, you need to have bachelor from this university, you need to have master from this university, and that much amount of experience. We do not have that trickling of thought as of yet, right? So then in this environment, what would you describe?
We are in a constant transition phase from that conventional methodologies to the digitalization right now. And a woman living in a rural area who just knows how to cook well can still, cook well these days and can earn as much she wants. You can buy and sell anything. You can buy and sell cars. You can do property work, real estate work. Even Eid al-Azha is going to come and, the goats are going to be available for you over there. Everything is there on your cell phone. You can use any kind of application. There are so many opportunities. But those who are hopeless, who actually don't find any solution to their problem, and they look into drugs for that because they find relief in it when they are stressed. They're going through anxiety, depression, and as he said that if you have a brother and he's very successful, of course you can't face that brother, you can't face the family people. Therefore they look into drugs, and the availability is not the problem. Like he said, it's just on a phone call. If someone actually wants to come out of it, because I have sympathy for those people who have been indulged into this activity. I don't hate them. I hate drugs, but not the drug addicts,
exactly.
right?
And thank you so much for saying that, because I have two examples over here. So imagine that, there was this one gentleman who took 2 lighters out of his pocket, dropped one into a glass filled with water. And, once he took out that lighter, it was really difficult for that lighter to be ignited once again,
yes,
all right? So what he did was that there was this other lighter which wasn't in a glass of water. He lit that up, touched it to the other lighter, and it started kindling, right? So imagine that, when people are down, all they need is support from somebody else. And I would want families to behave. And especially, I think it's a message for parents. We certainly, the peer pressure is not that harmful. The pressure which comes from their parents is something which is more harmful as well. That, bete, look at them, what are they doing and what are you doing, and all of that. So this comparison, number one, it kills the very instinct of a gentleman or a lady. Number two, so I was listening to Javed Sheikh Saab's interview, a massive film star he is in our country. He said that my first film as a hero, Dhamaka, released, and it was a big flop, and for the next 10 years it didn't have any work in any film. So I went back to theatre, I went back to acting for television, and then a film came up after 10 years which I was thrown out of because it was for a Punjabi audience, not the Urdu audience. And he said that I never stopped. Now imagine that the kind of a mega star he is in the country and outside the country was because of the fact that there was perseverance, there was dedication. He kept on going at it. He was, okay, I need to do it, I need to do it. How do you think people can get into this very mindset of being creative in the first place, making sure that they're going to be persistent, and then they will make sure, that they're not going to give up ever, because that's what our religion tells us.
Exactly. Hard work is the key to success, but this is not the first step towards success. Once my professor in the university was the first day, and he asked all of us that if you want to be the topper, what should be your first step? And I think almost everyone said hard work is the key to success. But he said no, it's the determination of the right path. It's the determination of the track you want to go on, because just hard work cannot lead you to success. I mean, there's a weapon in my hand.
It can.
Right?
It can, though. I think because I believe that, that hard work is something which Allah promises you that, you will be given reward for. And I'm always an avid advocate of this very statement which says that hard work beats talent. So direction for a person like me, I'm very sorry, I do not want to misguide anybody. But ladies and gentlemen, I am the kind of a person who would pray to Allah Almighty that this is what I want to do, Allah Mia, please guide me. And then go with the flow. Do not put that pressure on yourself. This is what you call anxiety and depression. People thinking about their past, what they did wrong, and people being very insecure about their future. They stop living in the moment, and that's where all the chaos come in your life.
Very respectfully here, I disagree.
Sure.
Okay, because we agree to disagree over here, right?
Obviously.
So I think that determination of the right path is not for your past nor for your future. It's for the present time that you are going through right now. What I mean to say is I have a weapon in my hand. I am using equal force, Shehzadi is using equal force, maybe he's a cop, he's a police officer, okay, and I'm a robber. We both are using the same force, right? We are doing hard work, but he's doing the hard work to save lives, and I'm doing to harm others, right? So we need to determine the right path, and for that we need to talk to ourselves.
That was a wonderful example, and I agree with this one. Yeah. We finally have an agreement over here.
Because I see Parveen Shakir, you know, she wrote Khud Kalami, talking to oneself. She said we need to find time. And in an English poetess, I think Virginia Woolf, she wrote New Year resolutions that I will find time to talk to myself, to explore myself. This is what Allama Iqbal said in Khudi, that one who explores himself is the one who can explore anything, because everything is inside us. Whatever we want to do, we can do. And yes, who want to quit drugs can of course quit drugs, because we want to be a motivation for them, because the one who is, you know, going through the process of transition, who is recovering, needs a lot of social support from parents, from the society. People should not hate them. People should have sympathy with them, and they should remember.
Destigmatize if they are going to the rehabilitation. They should not be shamed for correcting a fallacy, because we are all human beings, and we all err, and we all have fallacies in us that we want to correct. And I think this is also a hadith that you need to protect the flaws of others, right?
Exactly.
So do not go out there and pinpoint out the flaws in other person, because obviously as a person, as a human, you're also a very erroneous person. And I think in self-introspection, you very wonderfully pointed it out, especially in the age of the digitalization. We really need to do it, because we're so busy, and most of the time that busyness stems from just scrolling on the social media, right? And with that, we will say thank you so much to us for being, you wanted to add something.
Just one last point.
Yes,
maybe it could be beneficial for many people watching us, especially the parents who think that rehabilitation centers can provide their children relief. I think use of pressure is not going to be fruitful, right?
True.
The day when the person will have the drug which he uses in his hand or in his pocket, and he himself would be willing not to use it, it's the day when I think he can quit it. It's all the mind game. Anyone can do anything.
Exactly.
Just with the mind game.
And thank you so much for saying that, because, ladies and gentlemen, in the first place, you have to accept that it's you who's doing wrong. You know, the people who are in denial, unfortunately, they cannot make it back to the track as well. But very quickly towards the end, I think I have something to share, and then I will request my producer to, you know, kind of wrap it up as well for us. Hajar, do you want to say something?
Okay, I think I am done with that, because self-introspection, as my worthy guest mentioned here, is very much important, especially in an age where we are so much busy. And I mean, we're busy doing nothing, just scrolling on our social media gadgets. So that is something that we need to do, and because that leads to very honest conversation that we have with us.
अन्ना मेरी जो पस्ती में नहीं है, किसी की जी हजूरी में नहीं है, वो अपने को बड़ा गिनने लगा है, अभी खुद भी जो गिनती में नहीं है. जुम्मा मुबारक.
Wow, thank you so much, and until next time, it's a goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good morning.